Something rare happened on live television, and almost no one saw it coming. What happens when a global superstar finally decides she's done being polite, done being patient, and done absorbing quiet disrespect under studio lights? What happens when years of restraint crack in real time, right in front of a live audience that expects smiles instead of confrontation? That's exactly what unfolded during one unforgettable episode of daytime television, and the fallout stunned everyone watching. Before we dive into the video, please like, subscribe, and comment. Now let's get back to the video. It was supposed to be harmless, safe, predictable. Jennifer Lopez walked onto The View for what everyone assumed would be a standard promotional appearance. A new project to mention, a few light laughs, maybe a personal anecdote, and then a graceful exit. The show needed ratings. Jennifer needed exposure. The formula had worked hundreds of times before, and no one expected this day to be any different. But from the second she stepped onto that stage, something felt off. The atmosphere wasn't warm, it was tight, the kind of tension you feel before a storm breaks. Applause filled the studio as Jennifer took her seat, poised and confident, dressed in a sharp white blazer that caught the studio lights perfectly. She looked calm, composed, and every bit the professional she's been for decades. Whoopi Goldberg, Sarah Haynes, and the rest of the panel greeted her with smiles and easy banter. The audience responded with excitement, clearly happy to see her there. Everything appeared normal on the surface. But then there was Joy Behar. Sitting at the far end of the table, her smile looked strained, almost forced. Her posture was rigid, and there was a look in her eyes that suggested this wasn't going to be a friendly conversation. The opening minutes followed the usual rhythm. Jennifer spoke about her business ventures, her family, and her work. She was articulate, relaxed, and engaging, answering questions with the ease of someone who has navigated media scrutiny for most of her life. The other hosts listened attentively, nodding along as Jennifer shared her experiences. For a moment, it almost felt comfortable. And then the shift happened. Joy suddenly interrupted, cutting into a story about Jennifer's production company. "You know, Jennifer," she said, her voice sharp but controlled, "I have to ask you about something that's been bothering me for a while." The temperature in the room changed instantly. The other hosts exchanged quick looks, clearly not expecting this sudden turn. Jennifer raised an eyebrow slightly, her smile tightening just enough to signal caution, but she stayed composed. "Of course," Jennifer replied evenly. "What would you like to know?" Joy leaned forward, her tone turning unmistakably pointed. "I've watched your career for years, and I'm honestly curious how you've managed to stay relevant for so long despite your limited vocal range." The words landed hard. The studio went silent. Not a cough, not a shuffle. The audience froze, processing what they'd just heard. This wasn't curiosity, this wasn't journalism, it was a direct shot, carefully wrapped to sound polite, but designed to cut deep. Jennifer didn't react right away. Years of media training held her steady, but something flickered in her eyes, a flash of irritation, a spark she quickly contained. She inhaled slowly before responding. "I'm not sure I understand what you're implying, Joy," she said calmly. "Are you suggesting I don't deserve my success?" Instead of easing up, Joy pressed harder, energized by the tension she'd created. "Well, let's be honest," she continued. "You've had some hit songs, sure, but most critics agree your voice isn't exactly on the same level as someone like Whitney Houston or Mariah Carey. Yet, here you are, with this massive career. I'm just wondering how that adds up." The discomfort in the room was now impossible to ignore. Whoopi looked ready to jump in, but Joy wasn't finished. "And then there's your acting," she added. "You've been in movies, but have you ever really been considered a serious actress? A lot of your roles feel like you're just playing yourself. Don't you think audiences deserve more authenticity?" Jennifer's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Her hands, resting calmly moments before, now gripped the edge of the table. She was still smiling, but it wasn't warmth anymore. When she spoke, her voice was smooth, controlled, and unmistakably firm. "Joy," she said, turning slightly to face her, "this is quite different from what I was told this interview would be about. But if you want to talk about my career, let's talk about it honestly." She straightened in her chair, her posture shifting from relaxed guest to someone fully engaged. "You're right. I'm not Whitney Houston. Nobody is. She was one of a kind. But what I am is someone who worked relentlessly to build something real." Joy tried to interrupt, but Jennifer continued without hesitation. "I've sold over 80 million records worldwide. I've had multiple #1 hits. I've built that success by being authentic to who I am, not by trying to be anyone else." The words were calm, but they carried weight. "And as for acting," Jennifer added, her gaze unwavering, "I find it interesting how casually you dismiss my work. I've been nominated for Golden Globes. I've worked with respected directors. I've helped tell stories that mattered to millions. If that doesn't count as serious acting to you, then we clearly have different standards." The tension was now thick enough to feel. The hosts sat frozen, unsure how to diffuse what was unfolding. Joy, realizing her approach hadn't landed the way she expected, leaned in again. "But don't you think there's value in staying in your lane?" she asked. "You sing, you act, you run businesses. Maybe you're spread too thin." That was the moment everything shifted. "Stay in my lane," Jennifer repeated, her voice dropping just slightly. "Joy, let me ask you something. What exactly is your lane?" The question hung in the air, heavy and dangerous, and for the first time, Joy Behar didn't look entirely confident. Joy blinked, clearly not expecting the question to land the way it did. "My lane," she shot back, trying to regain control. "I'm a comedian. I'm a talk show host. I've been doing this for decades. I think I know exactly what my lane is." Her voice carried confidence, but it sounded rehearsed now, defensive rather than sharp. Jennifer nodded slowly, studying her. "A comedian," she repeated thoughtfully. "Interesting." She tilted her head slightly. "So tell me, Joy, when was the last time you did stand-up? When was the last time you performed in front of an audience that wasn't required to laugh because of studio cues?" The studio felt like it stopped breathing. The other hosts exchanged uneasy glances, their smiles gone. This was no longer playful tension. This was direct, personal, and escalating fast. Joy's face flushed, but she refused to back down. "I don't need to prove my comedy credentials to you," she snapped. "I've been on television longer than you've been famous. I earned my seat at this table." "Earned," Jennifer repeated, and now there was no mistaking the steel in her tone. "Let me talk to you about earning something." She leaned forward slightly, commanding the room without raising her voice. "While you were sitting behind a desk, making comments about other people's work, I was rehearsing choreography until my feet bled. I was in acting classes, voice lessons, working with coaches, studying constantly. I was performing in rooms where if you didn't deliver, the audience let you know immediately." Her words landed one after another, precise and relentless. "You want to talk about lanes?" she continued. "I never stayed in one because I refused to let other people decide my limits. Every time someone said I couldn't do something, I worked harder. When they said a girl from the Bronx wouldn't make it, I did. When they said I couldn't act, I kept proving them wrong. When they said I couldn't build a business, I built an empire." Joy tried to interrupt, but Jennifer didn't pause. "You talk about focus like it's a virtue," she said sharply. "You've been doing the same job for 20 years, sitting at this table, reading from a teleprompter, making predictable comments, occasionally tearing down guests who came here to share their work. If that's focus, then we don't define success the same way." A low murmur rippled through the audience. Whoopi finally attempted to step in, her voice calm but strained. "Ladies, maybe we should steer this conversation somewhere else." But neither woman was listening anymore. "I ask tough questions," Joy insisted, her voice rising. "I don't just throw soft questions so celebrities can promote themselves. That's journalism." She crossed her arms, visibly irritated. "Journalism?" Jennifer repeated, eyebrows lifting. For the first time since the exchange began, she smiled, but it wasn't warm. "When was the last time you broke a story, Joy? When was the last time you investigated anything? When was the last time you did something that wasn't opinion or gossip?" The impact was immediate. Joy's mouth opened, then closed. Her confidence cracked, just slightly. "I provide commentary," she said finally. "I analyze current events." "Commentary," Jennifer echoed. "Opinion, judgment, sitting comfortably while criticizing people who actually put themselves out there." She paused, letting the words sink in. "I've been in this industry long enough to recognize jealousy when I see it. And what I see right now is someone who built a career on the sidelines, throwing stones at people who actually stepped onto the field." The silence was deafening. Joy's hands tightened around the edge of the table. Her voice shook as she responded. "Jealous? You think I'm jealous of you?" She forced a laugh that didn't land. "I've accomplished plenty." "I think you're jealous of anyone who creates something," Jennifer replied smoothly. "Anyone who takes risks. Anyone who builds something meaningful instead of tearing others down." Her tone was calm, but devastating. "You criticize because it's safer than trying." "How dare you attack me on my own show?" Joy snapped. "I invited you here. I've been professional with you." "Professional?" Jennifer laughed, disbelief clear in her voice. "You insulted my voice. You dismissed my acting. You questioned whether I deserved my success. If that's professionalism, then that word has lost all meaning." She shifted again, her presence filling the room. "When people criticize me, they're talking about work I actually created. Songs, films, businesses, performances. When people criticize you, what are they criticizing? Your ability to read cards? Your habit of being cruel under the disguise of honesty?" Sarah tried desperately to redirect. "Jennifer, tell us about your upcoming projects." But the moment was gone, completely. "I've entertained millions for decades," Joy insisted, her voice thinning. "I have viewers who appreciate what I bring to this show." "Entertainment," Jennifer said quietly. "Because what I see looks like bullying. It looks like someone who never had the courage to step into the spotlight, using their platform to tear others down." Her voice grew stronger with each sentence. "Real entertainment lifts people. It inspires. It brings joy. Negativity isn't honesty. It's just bitterness with a microphone." Joy's face was now red, her composure cracking. And then she made the mistake that changed everything. "You want to talk about authenticity?" Joy snapped. "Let's talk about the image you sell, the constant reinvention, the plastic surgery, the persona." The second those words left her mouth, the room shifted completely. Something dark flashed in Jennifer's eyes. The calm was gone, not replaced with yelling, but with something far more dangerous. Whoopi raised a hand instinctively, as if she could stop what was coming. She couldn't. Jennifer stood up slowly, not dramatic, not rushed. The chair rolled back slightly. When she spoke, her voice was quiet, but it cut through the studio with absolute clarity. "Joy," she said, and the way she said it felt final. "You just made a very big mistake." Jennifer leaned forward, both hands pressed flat against the table, her eyes locked on Joy with an intensity that froze the entire room. "You want to talk about what's real?" she said quietly. "Let's talk about reality." Her voice didn't shake, it didn't rise. That calm made it more unsettling. "I came from nothing and built something that millions of people around the world connected with. That didn't happen by accident. It happened through discipline, sacrifice, and showing up when no one believed I could." Joy tried to interrupt, but Jennifer cut her off immediately. "No, you meant every word," she said firmly. "You meant to tear me down because that's what you do. That's how you stay relevant. You sit here and diminish other people because it makes you feel powerful." The words hit hard, each one landing with precision. The studio was so silent you could hear the faint hum of the lights overhead. But here's the truth you don't want to face, Jennifer continued. You've never created anything that truly mattered to people. You've never inspired anyone to chase a dream. You've never made someone's life better through your work. She paused, letting the weight of that sink in. And that's why you're angry. Joy's face drained of colour. Her hands trembled slightly as she gripped the table. When she tried to speak, nothing came out at first. You know what else is real? Jennifer went on. Tonight, I'll go home knowing I stood up for myself. I'll wake up tomorrow, still building, still creating, still growing. But you'll wake up the same way you always do, sitting behind this desk, complaining, criticizing, watching other people live the life you never had the courage to pursue. Joy finally found her voice, barely above a whisper. You can't speak to me like this. This is my show. Your show? Jennifer repeated, a sharp laugh cutting through the silence. This isn't your show. This is a show you appear on. You're not the star. You're the person. They keep around to say the ugly things out loud so everyone else can pretend they're above it. She shook her head slowly. Cruelty isn't a personality trait, and it's not charm. Jennifer straightened, her posture commanding, her presence overwhelming. You had a choice today, Joy. You could have had a real conversation. You could have asked about failure, resilience, creativity. You could have learned something. Her voice softened for just a moment. Instead, you chose to be small. Joy sat back in her chair now, visibly shrinking, her confidence completely gone. The saddest part, Jennifer added, you were talented once. I've seen your old work. You were sharp. You were funny. Somewhere along the way, you stopped trying. You decided tearing others down was easier than risking failure again. Her words weren't loud, but they were devastating. Joy shook her head weakly. You don't know me. I know exactly who I'm looking at, Jennifer replied calmly. Someone who confused cynicism with wisdom. Someone who mistakes cruelty for honesty. Someone who gave up and now wants everyone else to do the same. She reached for her bag and stood fully now. No hesitation, no drama. Your opinion of me changes nothing, she said. Tomorrow I'm still me, but this moment, she gestured to the table, this will follow you. Joy made one last desperate attempt to regain control. Security, remove her. She's being hostile. Jennifer turned back with a composed smile. Hostile, she said. I've been honest. If honesty feels hostile to you, that says more about you than it ever will about me. She then looked toward the other hosts. Whoopi, Sarah, thank you. I'm sorry this went this way. Then she faced the camera directly, her voice steady and powerful. To anyone watching, don't let someone else's bitterness define your worth. Don't let their limits become your ceiling. The audience erupted into stunned applause. Jennifer walked off the set, heels clicking with purpose, leaving behind a table full of silence and a host who looked completely undone. The camera lingered on Joy just a second too long. Her expression wasn't anger anymore. It was shock, embarrassment, and something dangerously close to recognition. The kind that comes when a mirror is finally held up and there's nowhere left to look away. And that's what made this moment so controversial. Not the confrontation, not the walk-off, but the fact that someone who spent years cutting others down was finally forced to sit in the aftermath of her own words, live on television with nowhere to hide. Some viewers called it empowerment. Others called it brutal. Some said Jennifer went too far. Others said she didn't go far enough. But one thing was undeniable. That table never looked the same again. And Joy Behar never quite recovered from the moment the power shifted live and in front of everyone.